Hey, Navara listeners, what's up? Andrew here. I have the pleasure of finally pinning Tucker down. He's been on my list to snag um, and try to get at least 5 minutes with. I didn't have to wrangle him too hard. He kind of came willingly. So Tucker, thanks again for joining me. I really appreciate the time. Your opening remarks this morning were fantastic. I want to tell you is just jump. I'm going to jump right into it if you don't mind. The one thing that I took away, because we're on the marketing side, right? And the one thing you said was, are you diversifying your messaging? Are you utilizing technology to get that diversified message
Right.
out to either your existing customers, your prospects, whether it's residential, commercial, wholesale, whatever the case may be. Can you just kind of just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, because I find it's so easy at a global scale. We can have the technology can be good, but without marketing, without people actually going and making them aware of this technology, the features and the benefits, it just falls flat. I mean, we got hundreds of examples, but it's the lack of marketing, or said differently, the benefit of good marketing. It really is the difference between whether you're going to sell the product or you're not going to sell the product. It starts with marketing.
I couldn't agree more. So in that same vein, there's a lot of companies that are like, hey, let's just go out with some incentive messaging. Let's go out and, just see if we can just buy customers maybe from our competitors with like offers that are just like too good to be true. Do you feel like that's a way of like, path of least resistance? Whereas like our motto is more of like, let's educate some of your existing customer base who already know you do a great job, low hanging fruit, and let's get more out of them and then leverage those customers and their experience in growing with your company, you know, and go out and reach out to those prospect customers.
Yeah, so one, we have a lot of incentive programs. We have incentives for builders, have incentives for farmers, but really to me, it's almost a last ditch effort. And one of the reasons we do it is traditionally it gives people who don't have a plan around marketing and don't have the marketing slicks ready to go, at least gives them something to talk to. But to your original point, an incentive, that whole financial conversation should be the last part of the conversation.
Right.
The first part of the conversation are the features and benefits that derive the value. Because I find generally if you're leading with an incentive, you're already kind of moved the conversation to price. And the conversation should be around features and benefits. How will it change your life? How will it help you run your business better? I'm talking about to the end users.
Right.
By choosing propane blank, choosing propane in your furnace, in your water heater, in your commercial power gen unit, in your vehicle. If you lead with price, you've missed the opportunity to really sell the product on features and benefits. And it's really probably where our industry has been pretty weak. Some people are really successful with it and they grow very rapidly. Other people are pretty bad at it and they rely on the price story, which then, okay, well, what's the price of your propane? What's the price of your competitors? I mean, it's just kind of a slippery slope. If you lead with marketing, features, and benefits, you're already have an advantage.
How big of a of a component do you feel like trust, reliability, and deliverability is not just residential, commercial as well? How much do you think those three things are at the highest priority for the end user when they're going and deciding, all right, I'm going to spend a lot of money probably with who I choose to do my business with on the propane side. Where do those three things lie on the priority scale?
Well, we firmly believe trust is number one without any ifs, ands, or buts. And we have a lot of experience in that because here we have this national message, but people don't really know who Perk is. They don't know whether to trust us or not. And at the end of the day, it's about that local brand that they either are going to trust and choose or they're not going to trust. You mentioned a lot of things. The last piece of that is safety. Who I'm going to spend a lot of money, I'm going to get a valuable resource back, but it also is one that comes with a safety track record. Do I trust the company that's installing it to not only know the features and benefits and to specify the right piece? Do I trust them to install it, service it, or maintain it safely? So trust is absolutely number one. And as I travel around, and we do a fair amount of surveys ourselves, companies that have a digital presence, have talked about their efforts in the community, they have the credibility, the trust, and their brand is so good. And by the way, once you get a chance to reinforce that brand, because your customers listen to you way more deeply than they listen to anybody else, right? So not only once you establish that trust, then by constantly having a message and offering programs, you develop even deeper trust, and to the point where your customers are never going to leave you.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to jump to technology a little bit. I was in a room with maybe 100 dealers not too long ago, and I raised the question, who in this room has a customer portal? Which to me seems very like basic, like a non-negotiable when, in 2026. And I was really shocked that only 50% of the room raised their hand. Where, like, when you're having your chats and interactions with our marketers in this industry, how much do you stress on not just portals but like utilizing technology? Because what's my thing is, what's the cost of doing nothing?
Absolutely. So I said it this morning. If you go back 50 years, people just expected to walk into your store, pay their bill with a check or cash. Nobody does that anymore, right? In fact, I would say most of the newer customers, they don't even want to know where your store is. They want to deal with you online. They want to know they're protected. They want to be able to pay you digitally. It's just a completely different experience, and you have to be able to meet your customers where they want to be met. And I mean, a good website, an active customer portal, I would argue, is almost a fundamental need to talk to today's customers where they want to be talked to.
I mean, especially with how much AI is driving, like you're almost like forcing you to start having a website that has FAQs, that has like problem solution marketing, a really good description of exactly what you do. Because when we all go and use Google and Gemini is sitting in the back waiting for you to do your short-tailed or long-tailed search, that first thing that comes up is all AI. And our goal on the marketing side is to make sure that our customers are going to be in that AI answer.
Yeah. And we're going to talk a lot about growth today. We're going to talk about growth for the next decade because I just think it's there for us. We're the best fuel for today's time for lots of reasons. But if you don't have that stuff, you're missing what, 50, 60, 80% of your potential market. And you're doing it with one person or a simple system and reaching thousands. It's the only way to really grow in 2026 and beyond.
One thing you said this morning, you're like, this industry, is never going to see 8 billion gallons delivered ever again. The next thing they're going to see is 15 billion gallons.
I'm going to be crystal clear. I said, we'll see 15 before we ever go back to 8.
Sorry, I want to make sure.
Because even right now, even last year with the winter in the West, non-existent, we did 10 billion. So, but we've had plenty of 8 billion, but I said, we'll see 15 before we ever go back to 8.
What do dealers need to do to be a part of that growth?
Well, simple answer is do what they want to do and do it well, right? Yeah. So plenty of dealers, and I see them all the time, they only want to be into the residential marketplace, but they got builders that when they build houses, they're using 4 or 5 appliances, and they get every builder in their community, right? If I was a propane marketer today, I clearly would have a commercial strategy because the commercial marketplace is just opening up for power gen, for backup power, for prime power, for then all the other things that commercial guys have always done: heat, hot water, industrial process. Every segment has promise. The farmers have so much promise. Irrigation engines, propane fuel tractors, animal heat, all that stuff. So the beauty of it, when we talked about material handling, the data was kind of shaky there for a while as electrification was prominent around forklifts. We're back having great success now in market penetration. So the beauty of this market is be good at what you do.
Yep.
Have a plan, have your sales guys know the scripts, have talking points, be prepared as they go into calls. But if you want to just be marketing based in the residential, do it. Just do it well. Again, though, if I was to say for me, I would be very balanced. I'd have some autogas accounts, in markets that were specific to me. I certainly love serving the farmer, and I'd be predominantly residential, and I'd be growing my commercial business like a weed.
That was going to be my next question is like, all right, so if you're new into the commercial space or you have a small footprint in the commercial space, how would you decide on which like silo to go after first, whether it's ag, the data centers you talked about today, forklifts and stuff like that? Like how would you decide? Would you just do kind of like a survey in your market on what the bigger opportunities are? Or?
I mean, but the first thing I think is, where are my own personal interest, right? Do I want to hire a lot of salespeople? Do I want to entice larger volume, lower margin business? Where are my customers and where are my contacts? Like, if I'm a member of the Rotary Club, or I already know the guy who manages the hospital or manages 50 fast food restaurants.
Right.
So a lot of that's just using your network, but generally it does involve just thinking about what you do best. Are you a great deliverer of gas? But then how do I diversify? Again, I would just start at that light commercial business, warehousing, forklifts. It's just such an easy, and I'm always thinking about how, rather than getting more degree day sensitive business, how do I get more degree day insensitive business? So that's why I love autogas. That's why I love forklifts. That's why I love power generation. A lot of that's 12 months a year.
I love that. How do I take the degree day sensitive business and also replace it, or not replace, but also
Add it, yeah. Because
degree day
again, even as you think about putting on your hat as a buyer of fuel, having a lot of fixed business, it's really beneficial as you're negotiating your supply contracts. You're a better customer to them. They're giving you better deals. You got more gas in play. There's just so many things that accrue to your benefit by having a full portfolio.
I want to get out of the weeds for just 1 second and just kind of just ask you like just a very raw, just like ordinary question is like, what just gets you so fired up about this business right now? Like when you get out of bed out of this every morning, is there something that you look at first? Is there someone that you listen to first? Like what's their go-to that just you can't wait to do as soon as you open your eyes in the morning?
Well, weirdly, the first thing I do is try to look at the Google search of kind of either market success stories or maybe some of our safety foibles, right? So, but what gets me excited is when I pick up and I see another fleet saying, "Hey, I chose propane autogas. What a wise fleet!" Or another person who said, "Gosh, for the first time, I'm using propane to produce power, and it just has changed the profile of my business." I would say this: I don't know that I'd be as excited if I sold propane in Africa or propane in South America right now. But as we talk about domestic energy, affordable energy, versatile energy, environmentally favorable energy, I think right now we may have the best game in town. Diesel fuel's got its troubles in terms of complexity, expense, environmental benefit. You see it with natural gas is going to be kind of consumed as we think about power generation at very large scales, power plants. I mean, this is our time.
Yep.
And I get so excited, and I don't really care whether you have 2 employees in one truck or 2,000 employees and 500 trucks. The market is just there for you to grow, probably in a way that we haven't grown before.
All right, I have a quick question about this renewable propane.
Yeah.
So
Something we haven't talked about at
We
all
haven't talked
today
about-
anywhere. I tend to be very quiet about it.
well, so as a marketer, obviously it's coming down for lack of a better term, pipeline. How, if I choose as a dealer to be like, I'm going all in on this renewable propane stuff, how do I market that to my customers as a benefit to doing business with me, as in the fact that I'm selling them renewable propane and only renewable propane? What would you tell your customers?
Well, I like the fact that marketers even thinking about it, because at some point the pendulum is going to swing back to environmental benefit. And it's easy to say with renewable propane, it's even more environmentally friendly than conventional propane. And I think for sure the next decade or so, we're not going to see many people selling just straight renewable propane. We're going to see them selling blends. It's more affordable, yet it gives the customer that same satisfaction that they're doing their best for the environment. What people don't really realize is the inertia never stopped for renewable propane. We're seeing more and more people come into the marketplace, kind of a byproduct of making sustainable aviation fuel or renewable diesel. But we're also seeing a lot of processes come through where we'll use it. One of the things we like about it, we can go to a place that's kind of supply starved and perhaps put in a more rateable renewable propane plant. So it'd be really powerful. To a propane marketer though, I think it's just a way to show to your customers, back to that trust. You can trust me. I'm going to be safe. I'm going to be reliable. I'm going to be a good value for you. And I'm thinking about your long-term future. So you deal with me today with conventional propane. Maybe that furnace we installed this week in your new house 25 years from now, it might be running on only renewable propane. But I'll have the solutions for you, not only today, but 25 years from today. And I think that even builds more trust.
Yeah, talking about the longevity of the relationship that you want to have with your customers, we really try to harp on that as well. Which is weird. Sometimes we get a little bit of pushback on those. Like, you know, we're putting our assets in front of our clients and stuff.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that, but sometimes we get pushback, which is weird.
It's a hard conversation to have because the first thing you're saying is, well, okay, not only do I sell propane, I'm selling something that's slightly better than propane. And I know it's a difficult conversation. I don't find it really as much necessary at the residential side, but for certain classes of commercial customers, perhaps people who have a just severe image that they want to fix, UPS would be one. A lot of fleets really like it, but it can be your local university or even your local municipality. They want to demonstrate, hey, I thought about renewable electricity. I'm choosing renewable propane instead. I find that class of customer, it plays well.
All right. My last question for you, and then I'm going to let you fire at me for a second, is if you could tell a 7-truck operator who's got a 70-30 mix, residential 70-30 on the commercial, what's one thing that you would do if that was your company as a starting point to that next phase of growing your business?
Well, first thing I'd say is congratulations. Having a 70-30 mix is a wonderful start. I would clearly think about how power gen fits into that commercial base that he already has. Some backup, some prime, power, and how to begin to layer in power generation using propane generators on top of the goods. Because what we see right now, I know you live in the Northeast, but you think about them on a national basis, almost every state power grid's going up 8, 10, 12%, sometimes a little bit more than that. And if we think about that 2 or 3 years from now, power is going to be really expensive. The ability to produce cheap power using propane at their margins, it still provides a win-win. Win to the propane marketer selling the propane, and a huge win to the commercial customer cutting down their utility power with their propane produced power. And it's just so easy to leverage it in. There are numerous brands, all have great distribution, great service, and sales support. It's just the next phase of this.
I love that. I love that. All right, Tucker, it's your chance. You get 2 questions if you want. If one if you only want, but 2 if you want.
Well, I mean, the first question is always on my mind. You're out seeing the industry, kind of seeing the people who are being successful with marketing, helping be prepared, as you say, going into shows, attracting labor, perhaps improving their brand. What's the one thing you think universally we need to do better to have a better brand, to have a better digital presence? What's the one area, at least maybe we need to be talking differently?
Well, especially as you expand into these different verticals, right? You know, you talk about backup power generation and these data centers and more, you know, working more with the farmers and whatever the case may be. I think that what I'm seeing, and because we do it on the residential side and on the small commercial side too, is like building out really good case studies that people can see the actual process, the actual usage of it, instead of like trying to read it. We make like really cool videos and stuff like that where they can see like, oh, start to finish, that's how I get involved in that, that's how I do that. And it's like, oh, okay, like that's that, now I can palette that, now I can see that, I can see myself being able to accomplish that. Whether it's on the customer side or whether it's on the marketer side when they're trying to get into or penetrate, you know, one of these other verticals.
Yeah, I do. I mean, again, we could talk about it for days, but I think just using these technologies that are available to us now, and it's not just about AI, it's about customer contact, customer follow up, preparation. It's where our industry has been so lacking. You heard me talk about it this morning. And I think it's the thing that I'm the least knowledgeable about. So I love it when people like you are coming in and showing propane companies how to have a really good digital transformation so their customers are that. Let me just ask you, what are you excited about? Where do you see your technologies being able to change a marketer's life?
We've been in the industry long enough now where, and we only work in this industry, as I told you before, we're at the point now where we've developed like custom tools for propane companies, for oil companies, for HVAC companies, where they're using our platforms that are all hooked in to their main back office. And it's like, they're like, oh my God, like I don't have to do anything? Like, no, just let me go to work. You know, you're really good at delivering propane. You're really good at delivering that trust, reliability that we talked about before. Let me do what I do best. And I promise that at the end of the day, we're gonna look at your numbers and they're gonna be here.
That's why it's such an exciting time. Because
Yeah.
I would say we have the fuel, right? We got plenty of it. It's going to be at the right price. There's no reason to think that that's going to be upset over the next 7 to 10 years. We got the technology. It's coming at us pretty fast across the board. More reliable, more durable,
Yep.
more efficient technology. And now we got this last piece, which I think we've been lacking, which is the digital tools to deliver solutions that customers can receive and see the benefits. That's why I just stand by my statement. We'll see 15 ever before we see 8
I
billion.
can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Tucker, thank you
Good.
so much. I really appreciate your
Appreciate
time.
it.
Thank you
Great.
so
Thanks
much.
for what you're doing out there.
Cheers, you too.
Thanks.